Hello! So, we're going to be talking tie backs. This one's a bound one, and it's the first of 3 videos I'm going to do. The first one, this one that you're going to see coming up now, will show cutting all 3 different types of tie backs: bound, piped and plain. And then the rest of the video is how to make this tie back, which is a bound one, obviously. And then I'll do 2 more videos, one for the pipe one for the plain one, and I'll link at the end of this video when I've done it, so you should be able to click through. And having done this video after I recorded the making, I've seen the state of my hair in the video and I can only put it down to the weather. It was very hot. It was really hot in here at the time. It wasn't, I was just lazy. Okay, so I have all my bits and pieces here, and first of all I'll cut the buckram. Now this is quite a wide roll and it's the thickest one you can get. It's like a violin, non-adhesive. You can get narrower rolls, but I could only get this particular one actually at the time, but anyway, it'll last me a while. I have a template here cut for my tie back. This is just a 24-inch, and I've just drawn it out freehand basically, so you can, you know, people have different shapes, different preferences. And what I tend to do is, rather than cut across, which seems logical, I actually cut this way because I use the curl of the buckram to my advantage. What I'm going to do is I'll cut 3 tie backs out of the buckram, and then I'm going to do one of each style. So I'm going to do a bound one, a piped one, and just a plain one, and just show you the different methods. Two. Okay, so interlining, and these are all cut the same, but for now all we do is cut a piece that's plenty big enough. Don't cut it the dead length, because what you'll be doing when you put it under the machine is giving it a bit of ease, so it'll need a tiny bit extra. So I would just give it, because you can trim it up after anyway, so just give it an extra centimetre or so and cut a sort of blanking piece out like that. So you want 3 of those. No precision required. Speeds things up anyway. A lot of people spend a lot of time, or I think, on tie backs, hand sewing every bit of it, and it just doesn't need it. And quite frankly, I personally think it's a better finish if you can machine much of it, because you just get a neater, tighter stitch line. The back's hand finished, hand sewn, there's no stitching showing, so it's a good finish. Okay, so those are your 3 bits of interlining. Buckram, interlining, lining. Now, for the plain one, we need 2 pieces of lining. Seems odd, but the same thing applies. Just use this piece of interlining as your template. In fact, I can get 4 out of this piece, so I'm just going to chop it into 4. So 2 for the plain one. Two for the piped one. In fact, you need 3 for the piped one, so I need some more. Is it just me, or do you have to find the perfect piece of lining? It drives me mad. Something wrong with it, I think. Can't just grab the first bit, cut a bit off, put the rest back under the table. No, I have to find one as near to the right size as I can. Weird. Please somebody tell me you also suffer from that affliction. Anyway, here we go. Found a bit that's been hemmed, but just big enough. Right, I'll just undo that hem. Most of it doesn't matter. You can, and 1 piece for the bound one. Now I have this sort of linen print, which will make up nicely, and I've got some contrast to put on for the piping and the binding, and obviously one will be just plain. Now normally what I would do if I'm using a pattern is I would try and make a sort of a pair. So for instance, I might choose that as the end, like that. So that would become the end the face that you would see. So the right hand tie back would have that on the end. And then when I did the other one for the other pair, I would use that on the other side. What you want is something that appears obviously twice on the fabric, but in the same plane. It's tempting, for instance, to use that because it's a nice shape to fit into there. That will look nice actually in the end of the tie back. But on the other side, either you've got to use that one, which is shifting the pattern over. So this, you've got all this included in the tie back. But if you use this one, and if you use that one, you're lower down on the pattern. So you're better off actually using that central part there. And just pick a bit that you think is going to look all right. As it happens, I don't have a luxury because I'm just I'm doing these samples. So what I'll just do is cut this into 4 basically. I don't need them that wide. I'll cut them down, but I'm going to cut them all the same. Don't need those. So that's 2 of them. So 4 pieces, don't need 4, I need 3, so actually I'll get rid of that one because it's a bit narrow. And all the buckram. So now I want to cut some piping. I think this is Linara, old Linara. And I only have a narrow piece. I've got to cut it on the bias because it's really got to turn and curve around the end of the tie back, so I shall just use this bit here and chop it up. If you want to be more precise than me, I never am, by all means mark your piping out, but I shan't be bothering for this. So I'll just mop this round just to see how much I need. That's 3 pieces, so I need 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, them's all my pieces. I shall now sew up the binding, and then the rest of it pretty much is done at the machine, apart from the last bit of hand sewing on the back. So we'll go and do that. Okay, so we're going to do a contrast bound tie back first. So I have here a layer of interlining, a buckram cut to shape, fabric for the front, lining for the back, and some binding. So start first, make up the binding. So I'll just get my scissors. I'm gonna get out again. Oh. Okay, so just got my scissors. So the first thing is adding. Now you can actually do all this in one go, but for the purposes of this, I'll do it in stages. What I would normally do for a bound tie back is lay the lining, buckram, interlining all together with the curl of the buckram downwards like that, so that it has a natural curl as it would once it's on the curtain. And I would feel my way around there, machine all that in one go, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in stages just so you can see how it's constructed from the inside. So first of all, sew quite close to the edge, not right on the edge because you don't need to basically, so make it easy on yourself. And the trick to this, I find, is to keep the buckram curled. Don't put any tension in that buckram, because that's what causes them to buckle and not look so good. Tends not to be a problem with the interlining because it gives a lot anyway, but do it anyway as a matter of course. And if you hold it like that, you can keep that curl in it, and then just behind the edge, letting it go basically as it wants. What I do find is if you keep within the width of your binding, if there is any indentation, if you use like a really thick bump interlining for instance, you get a bit of an indentation there. Now if that's within here next to your binding, sort of on the main fabric, it might show, you might just get an impression of it. So you're as well to stay within the bounds of the binding. So there we go. It was round, and then trim off the excess just right up to the edge of the buckram. Try not to catch the buckram as you go. Okay, and then lining. So similarly, you want to put this on, but you sort of want to do the opposite. You want to let, if you were to fold that as if it was on the curtain, you want to give it a bit of tension. So it's easier to sew it on the other side. So what I tend to do is I get it completely flat on there first, whip it over, follow the same line or just a bit within it, and then I actually pull a bit on this lining. If you can see, giving it a bit of pull, especially in the middle, that's where it tends to need it. And then you look at that completely flat, but you can pull and get quite a bit of ease into that. The tripod's just in the way, so I'm going to lift it over. And again at the other end, just rather than letting it do what it wants, just give it a bit of a pull with your thumb underneath and put some tension in there. Not a lot, it doesn't need a lot. Okay, so there you can see it's lined. If you do get a little bit of pucker like that, don't worry about it, it'll press out easily. But you can see that it's not wrinkling really badly. I'll press that in a minute, you'll see. So trim off the excess lining. Okay, and rather predictably, the top. So if you were doing a pair, you would obviously at this point make sure that you've got one good end of the tie back in with the pattern that you want above it. But in this instance, we're just so same as the interlining, curl it over. Obviously you've got this on the against the interlining side. And keep that curled and let it roll. Trim off the excess. Like I say, once you get used to doing this, you can get all 3 layers on in one go. You learn how to sort of let the top roll, tighten up the inside, machine it all on in one go a lot quicker. the binding. And what I tend to do is decide which end is my good end, and obviously that may be dictated by the pattern placement. I'll choose that as my good end because it's got a few more flowers on it. So I want to put my join in on this side of the tie bag, and I tend to put it on the bottom. So I would start off with it straight. Now it's up to you how you join the binding. I tend to just fold it over and machine over it. I'll show you when I come to it, but it depends on the job, because you can join it properly and get a better finish, but because they tend to be paired and will always stay as a pair and only ever put up with a front and a back, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I would say don't waste your time. So binding on, you've got bias, it's obviously cut on the bias, so you've got plenty ease, but don't put it on too tight. And when you get to these corners, you want to put a lot of ease into it. I should have pressed these. And now I can't reach the iron. So let's get the finger press. Anyway, okay, so what I tend to do is like up, and then I sort of push it back and ease a lot of fullness back into it, like that. Basically, if this edge is laying flat, this will be too. So again, push it down. This is quite thick, this I think it's Linara, so it's quite stable, and actually floppier fabrics are much easier, so linens and things, they've got a lot more give. This tripod's really annoying. Until you've come right away from that end, like that, and then you can tighten up a bit now around here, laying it flat again. So again, start easing from before the curve, push it back, try not to get an actual pleat in there, but even if you do, you can sort of ease it out actually. Can't let a bad tension on there, gets that bottom thread, did it change? And then what I tend to do, more often than not always, is I just fold that back and then overlap with that bit. Just being careful you get the stitch line matched up over the top. See, I've stitched over that fold, and then I can just trim that off now. Okay, so before you get excited and turn the ends. Just do a bit of tidying up, get rid of these chunky bits, trim them off, and really that's all you need to do. And then get your thumbs underneath there, press it flat and turn. There you go. I'll take it to the table in a minute and press it all properly so you can see. Now that end's got a join on, unfortunately. I could have arranged that a bit better, but you'll see that they do lie really nice and flat. So same on this end. Get your thumbs in. Push it over. And then just do a bit of to get it nice and flat. Okay, so what we'll do now is I'll take it to the table, turn it, press it and hand sew it. Okay, so here's the tie back with the ends turned, and what I'll just do quickly is press it here, roll it right back, the binding, make sure your joins are opened out before you press them, and then same thing there. You're just ironing this edge, trying to iron that and put an extra crease in it. You're just trying to create this fold back. You can push it with the iron out. Not many fingers like I do. There. And then turn it over, and you can just give this a press if you want, just to satisfy yourself that your lining's nice and flat. If you use one like this one, the DB1 lining with a bit of polyester, and it will sort of shrink a bit to fit anyway if you use a hot iron. Okay, just press that open. Now you want to turn the edges. What you'll find is this will probably be a bit too big here, and it's a bit chunky. So you'll need to do some trimming down. So I would tend to cut it down to about that sort of size. You can test it out. See what I mean? You can get a nice width so it covers your stitch line, just over your stitch line. And there's not too much, not too bulky. So I shall trim the rest of that off. See? And then where it overlaps, I'll come in a little bit more even, just on that bit. And then you can turn it, and press it, ready for hand sewing. And then you can just keep going round, press, turn, press. Get it quite tight up against the edge of the buckram so you're not got a sort of baggy binding. Nobody likes a baggy binding. Or even a floppy flap. It doesn't have to be perfect, because there's a certain amount of easing and moving around you can do with the needle and just manoeuvring it as you want. And when you get to there, and fold all of that over together. Like I say, if you want to machine it, this is really thick actually, because it's such a thick linen, it's quite bulky, so it may have been better to actually join that properly, so to stop the two ends, put a seam in and then run over, so that you can open that out rather than having all those layers on top of each other. Open up that seam. There we are. Right, you can put a few pins in if you want at this point, just to hold it in place while you hand sew it, but I tend to find that that's enough as it is. So I'll hand sew it up and then you can see it all completely finished. Okay, so hand sew. So basically it's just a simple slip stitch through the lining, through the edge of the binding, and on you go. If you've got a bit of a variation in width of the binding, you can adjust it as you go, sort of rolling it a bit with the needle. And you can reduce the size of the stitches around the end just to get a nice turn. There we go. Finished at the other end. Good few stitches to cast off at the end of the thread. So now all it needs is its rings. this point I'll just give it a one last press and I'll show you, because you can see it's got a bit of bubbling on the top here, but that's good because that gives it a bit of ease, and when you fold it back you don't get any buckling in the buckram. You get a really nice curve and a smoothness, and it'll stay in place once it's on. Quick iron. So your line is nice and smooth on the back. There we go. Now that's the back side, you'll see where the join is. So if you treat that as the front now, and put your rings on accordingly. To find my rings now. So I just use simple brass rings. This sort of size goes over most tie-back hooks, but there are different ones. There's plastic ones, see-through ones, all sorts. Like on a voile you might want to use a plastic one, see-through one. Okay, so this is the back. So this one I'll put right on the end, so that when it's on the hook on the wall, this bit of the tie back isn't in the way of the hook. This one on the right side, on the face, I'll set in like that. In fact, I'll use red on that end. So this one set in. There's a right and a wrong side to these rings as well. There's a split in the back of that, so I tend to put it that way around. It just looks neater. So just through the lining for now. Do a good few stitches through the lining. But as you go, if you catch the buckram inside as well without going through to the front, it'll stop the ring from pulling just the lining and ripping it. And then to get a nice neat finish, if you stitch across all the stitches, that little bunch. Over and over, and then through with the last one just to hide the thread. Now, so you'll see now that it's firm because it's caught in the buckram as well, but it's not gone through to the front. On the other end. So I'm going to put it on like that, so just fold it over for now, hold it in place. And then a good few stitches. Remember, this is at the back, so it matters less, although obviously you want it to be nice. Flop it back, do the same with you. Like a little bar across the end of all the stitches. There it is, all done. there we go, bound tie back. It's a similar principle for the pipe one, which I'll do, and I'll do that in another video. So this video has all the cutting of all the different types of tie backs, but I'll do a different one for the making of the pipe one and the plain one. There we go. So I hope that video was useful. Please comment below if you've got any queries or comments or complaints or... Off, Daisy! So I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you also click on the subscribe link, you'll get the little bell symbol, and then you can be notified of any new videos that come up. And of course, please comment below if you've got any queries or suggestions or comments, good or bad.